that's what we did. We ran 3 4-hour trips a day. We did half-day trolling trips. And back then, you know, I look back on it now and I'm like, I'm kind of ashamed to say it, but what we made a living on doing is we would go out on these 4-hour trips. We didn't count king mackerels that, oh, we caught 6 today or we caught 8. We caught 6 handfuls, 8 handfuls on 4-hour trips. We do that over and over and over, which was way too many fish. We should have never been keeping that many, but we did. And that's all in the past. We don't do that anymore. But still, it's a super exciting fishery, and it's something that's available to everybody because you don't have to run miles and miles and miles to do this. I mean, some of the best king mackerel fishing is well within 10 miles of the pass, and I can't tell you how many times the best king mackerel fishing of the day is right there at the sea buoy or just southeast of the sea buoy on the Chris Johnson and the Billy Rock. So that area right there, the rodeo has probably, the winner of the rodeo has either come from there or the Palace just about every year. One of the 2 places, right there at the sea buoy or out there. But yes.
Before we get started too into it, I just wanted to let everybody know about a couple things you
Okay.
have on, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megan wants to say something.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
We love Megan, so we'll let her talk.
Thank you. Before he gets into it too in depth, my name is Captain Megan. I work here with Legendary Marine. I was their delivery captain for a couple years and moved into sales about 3 years ago. But we've got a lot of cool stuff going on this week that I wanted to invite all of you to and extend it as well. Tomorrow being my Ladies at the Helm class. That is here from about 1 to 5, and it is for ladies only. We don't take anybody with wigs, but we can talk about that later.
If I wear a skirt, can I come?
You know what? There is a loophole, but you can always join. So that is a super cool class. It's for ladies from 1 to 5, so we'll do a little bit of classroom stuff, talk about channel markers, how to navigate, emergency features in case your partner running the boat bonks his head and you need to get us back safely. And then we do some on the water stuff as well. So it's a super good time. So if y'all want to do that from 1 to 5 here in the showroom, just you guys can call up at the store and register for that. We'll do a couple of those, so just want to extend that out to you. And then we have Thursday, and then we have Friday, which is our captain's party for the Blue Angels. So if anybody's heading out to the Blue Angels, I am going to run a convoy over there, being at the Mid-Bay Bridge around 7 a.m. I'm going to go out there pretty early, but I'll be in a 395 Everglades with a tower and flags. So if y'all have never done it and we're interested in doing it, you're free to follow us over there. Or we're going to be just east of the Pensacola Bridge. So if you see us over there with the flags and stuff, just come on in and either raft up or get up on in pretty close to us. Our Pensacola guys are going to have some spots.
So are you going to run that whole way inside? Or?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you haven't ran the Intercoastal that far, it is pretty easy to follow. There's going to be a bunch of traffic. So if you want to go with somebody else, we're doing a big trip over there. So the more the merrier. And if you want to go, just kind of let us know. You can call up to the store and then I'll be on the lookout for you. I will be on VHF channel, I don't remember. I've got it on my post, but I will be monitoring on the VHF channels, and it's also tagged on the Legendary Marine page. So the more the merrier. If you guys have any questions, my name is Captain Megan, and you guys can call anytime. Thanks, Tim.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, all right. King mackerel, where was that? Anyway. This is not an uncommon sight for king mackerel fishing. You know, we've gone through about a 4 or 5 year period where the king mackerel fishing's been very off. And all the species we do go through these little cycles. Well, I can tell you last year, for the whole year, I caught a total of 11. And I caught 5 one day. So and I keep a fly line out every single day we're bottom fishing. And we'll talk some about that a little bit later. Because some of y'all may go, well, what's a fly line? Well, we're going to cover that. But Saturday, I'd fished Friday with some of my clients, and we had an okay day Friday, and we had a lot of the guys and stuff. But Saturday was a family day. It was the owner and his wife and their 3 kids, and I had a 9, a 10, and a 13-year-old. And I'm like, okay, so the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to go out, we're going to have fun today. And we stopped at a little place inshore there, about 12 miles from the pass. And I'm telling you, you can ask my wife about my shirt when I came home. I wore a yellow shirt that day. It was mass chaos for 3 hours. I haven't seen it that good in a long time. You could grab a live herring out of the live well, hook it on a fly line rig, pitch it out behind the boat, it hit the water, and it just like, boom, boom, you got a bite. Now, it wasn't all kings. We would either have 2 kings on, or 2 bonitas, or a bonita and a king, but it was this fast pace for 2 to 3 hours till the 3 kids were just worn out. They couldn't do anymore. We had to quit. We had to go do something else because they just couldn't reel anymore. They were done. But it was as fun a day of fishing as I've had in quite a while. We did that before we went bottom fishing. You know, we're going to talk about some mahis later. You know, and I was talking earlier, you know, Destin was built on king mackerel fishing. And, you know, back in the day when I first started working on a charter boat back when I was 13, I was washing boats for Bernice Marler. And then got a job working as a second mate when I was 14. So that would have been 75, you know. So, but some of our, that's the way we did king mackerels when I was a kid. That's what we're saying. I'm not proud that we killed that many. That's, you just don't need that many. I don't care what species it is. It could be king, snappers, jacks, whatever. You don't need to have that many, but we did that. And then I think kings have gotten a really bad rep over the last 10 or 15 or 20 years. I mean, we used to always catch kings, you know, that was our thing. And they were considered great eating fish. And for some reason, they've gotten this, this rap about, well, they're not that good. Well, I'm telling you, you know, now, if you got a king that's 20 pounds or bigger, that one needs to be turned into smoked fish dip. King mackerel are as they age, they start to build up oil in the meat structure. And when you catch the ones that we were catching the other day, they were all about like this. They were nice little schoolies. They were 6, 8, maybe up to 10 pounds. You clean them, that meat is actually whiter than a snapper's meat. And then as they start to get bigger, they start getting that 12 to 18 pound range. They start to get a little bit darker. And as they start getting over that 20 pound range, they become fairly dark meated fish and they have a lot of oil content. Those are not as good for doing some of the things with, but those are actually better for making fish dip out of. You know, because I love cobia. I don't think anybody in here that hasn't had cobia wouldn't say that cobia is really good to eat. But they're very firm, they're very dense, and they're very low fat and oil content. Well, I had the brilliant idea, I'm gonna make fish dip out of cobia one time. Well, I smoked the cobia up and, you know, I start making my dip and I'm putting my sour cream and mayonnaise and everything else in there. And I take a bite of it, I'm like, man, it's just dry. And then so I put more mayonnaise and more sour cream in there. And by the time I got it to where it was a texture that I liked, well, it had lost all of its smoke flavor. I had to add some liquid smoke. It's too dense to do a smoked fish dip out of. And that's why the king mackerel is much better for that. But fried king mackerel, if you want to deep fry some king mackerel, those smaller ones, in your batter mix, you want to put some Italian dressing. First off, marinate your king mackerel in Italian dressing and then put some powdered Italian dressing into your breading mix. That is absolutely fantastic. And then the last recipe I got up here, and I don't care what you put this one on. This was originally a chicken recipe that we found, and we converted it to a fish recipe. But if you'll take your fish, whether it's, and I don't care what it is, it could be any kind of fish you want, but pan saute it or blacken it in Kerrygold butter and Old Bay seasoning. Then mix you up a bruschetta mix just like you'd put on toast. And then do a balsamic vinaigrette glaze, about 90% balsamic vinegar with just a little bit of brown sugar and reduce that into a glaze. Put that over that king mackerel with the glaze. The first time we made it, I ate my dinner, and then I was back in there in the kitchen. I'm eating out of the pan till I couldn't. I just made myself sick. You've tried it, haven't you, Randy? You didn't make that? I thought y'all made that.
No, we did.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. But just some things you can do to them. Where do king mackerel fish? This is easy. I talked about the sea buoy and around the Chris Johnson and the Billy spot, but the main key to being able to catch these fish is you need to fish around where the bait's at. And if you get to an area, and on here I've got listed some of the popular things going from east to west. There's Frangista Reef, the Southeast Rocks, the 18s, the Nicky Grounds, the Pole Spot, Timber Holes, and then the Okaloosa County ships. Alex Fogg, our guy from the county, has done a fantastic job. So he's put out more reefs in the last 2 years than the county has put out in the last 25 or 30 years. His reef program is insane. But any one of these that you decide to go and fish around, you need to troll around that area, because all these, except for the last one, the ships down here, these are all natural bottom areas. And so you're looking for where the bait fish are suspended at. If there's no bait in the area that you're fishing, you need to go on to the next one, because catching them is about bait. And if you're fishing around those pods of herring and cigar minnows, that's where you're going to get your bites. But the big ships, most of the time, all the ships, with the exception, the Liberty ship doesn't produce like it used to. I just think it has so much boat traffic. There is a place that I forgot about now that I mentioned the Liberty ship. Just offshore of the Liberty ship, there's a place called White Hill. White Hill is another great place for king mackerel fishing. But all of these, and these are common numbers. They're easy to come up with if you don't have them. But those are the areas that you want to go and look to fish. So, a long lost art, and probably I want to tell you all a little bit about the history of king mackerel fishing, but the old school classic king mackerel fishing. There's probably only one other person in here besides myself that would remember how to do this. There may be more, but Captain Mike, I'm sure you have done the old dead cigar minnow thing. Oh yeah.
Dinosaur rig.
Yep. But we used to go, back in the day, we had a place called Destin Bait. They were right where Dewey Destin's restaurant is now. But we'd go there in the mornings as kids on charter boats, and we would buy our cigar minnows there. And I can tell you how long ago this was. A box of cigar minnows was $2. I mean, 5-pound box of cigar minnows was $2. But we'd go get a couple boxes of cigar minnows, and then, I worked down at Kelly Docks, and the ice truck would come by, and we actually got blocks of ice back then. You had to sit there and chip it up to make your ice out of. But we used what was called a duster rig. Like I say, this is not something that we still sell a few of these. There's a few old school guys still around, and it's a method that nobody does anymore, but it still works today. But we use the hard piano wire, and we make a pin rig. It's very, very similar to rigging a ballyhoo, but this is an exceptional way of trolling for kings. The big key to this versus what we do today with live baits is your bait has to be swimming. If your bait's going around like a propeller, the king mackerel are just not going to bite that. It's not right. So you take your cigar minnow, if you're going to do this, grab him by the head and the tail. You want to thaw out a few at a time, and then just bend him just like you would a ballyhoo till you feel his backbone start to crack. That way he's going to swim really good. And then the little pin rig goes from the bottom jaw out through the top of his nose, and you can make a pin rig out of the hard wire itself or use a little ballyhoo spring on there. Either way works. You just got to have something to hold the cigar minnow on. And then you want to put it in the water. If you get that little wire that goes to the top of his head, it has to go straight through at a 90-degree angle. If you have it off center, Well, the water's going to hit him and want to roll him this way, so that's going to make him spin. So he does have to be hooked very dead center. That's what's going to make him swim straight. So you're going to put him in the water and look at him and watch him go along. He's swimming, fine, just let him on out behind the boat. If he's not swimming really good, a lot of times you can take the rod, just give it a quick little tug, just doop, and that'll set him upright and get him just swimming. If that doesn't work, take him and just slap him on the water one time. Just try to break his backbone. Just bap. That should get him swimming good. If he's not still, it's probably you don't have that thing centered in his head. It's off kilter to one side or the other. And this same method, it's the same thing we do with ballyhoo if we're going to go offshore and fish for wahoos, dolphins, and tunas out there at the offshore fads. So same type of principle, just on a smaller scale. And then there is a 3-hook duster rig that doesn't have a pin. They just use the front hook to hook the cigar minnow on with. This is the hardest one for me. I know people who are really good at this one, but that's the hardest one for me to get it to swim really straight. I use the regular pin rig over the triple hook rig. And of course, a planer rig. You know, we're getting into that time of year. It's hot. And that surface water is really hot, and it's warmer than normal this time of year. So a lot of the bite, other than that first few hours in the morning, you're going to get a lot of bites much deeper. And we're going to talk about trolling with lures, and there's surface running lures and lip lures and trolling leads, but nothing's going to get as deep as a planer. There's one drawback to a planer, is that this planer needs to be at least 10 feet from that lure, and 15 or 20 is better. This planer will scare a little king mackerel off, and a big king mackerel, if the duster and cigar minnow is too close, he'll come up behind it, eat the duster, then eat the planer and cut the whole thing off. So this needs to be at least 10 feet, 10, 12 feet, that's a minimum. Well, the problem with that is, you're in the back corner of the boat right here, the angler's got the fish, the planer gets to the tip of the rod, well the fish is still way over there. So I have to hand line this fish, this last little bit, and I want to be in the corner, have my angler here so I can hand line the fish up to gaff him. That's the only drawback to a planer, and the fact that the angler is right here and the planer is above your head, so he needs to make sure that he's keeping this rod tip over here away from your head in case that fish takes off again, that this doesn't come and bonk you in the back of the head. But it's a super effective way. You know, a trolling lead or a lipped bait will only get so deep. But a planer, they come in several sizes. The number 1 through a number 3 is the most popular. This is a number 2 planer. This will run about 12 to 15 feet deep or so. A number 3 planer, it'll run 25 or 30 feet deep. And to store this, because it is longer than your pole is, we want to hook the hook into one of the guides up here. Make sure you go through the foot of the guide, whether you're snapper rig fishing or this kind of rig. Never put the hook in the ring of the guide. If you crack the ring of the guide with the hook, that's going to fray your line every time you fish. So always use the foot of the guide. Then we want to have the planer not too close to the tip. And then we come down working from the hook in to stow this away, wrap around the reel till it kind of basically comes about tight. And at that point, you can just turn the handle, tighten it up, and it'll stow real nice. So makes it real easy to stow that planer rig. But that's how I grew up fishing as a kid. If I thought I was going to go out there and just look for sheer numbers, catch as many as I could catch, this is probably the method that I would go with. It's not the funnest method because we do have to fish a little bit heavier rods to, you know, normally to run a planer, you need a little bit heavier rod. Now, I would always run a couple rods just on the surface and a couple rods on planers. And those planer rods are going to get bit, and as the planer releases and comes to the surface, then the other king mackerel will come up, just keep trolling along, and then your flat lines will get bit. But that's for just sheer numbers. Now, if I want to go for just sheer fun, my favorite way is to go out and either most of us call it fly line fishing. Probably a better name for it is flatline fishing. And you can do this as a standalone or while you're bottom fishing. When we go out there and we go bottom fishing, we're snapper grouper fishing. I always have just a spinning rod, and on here, and I'll have a photo of this in a minute, but it's just a stinger rig where we got a single hook and a treble hook. The single hook is just to hold the cigar minnow on. This is going to go in one eye and out the other, and then the treble hook goes down by his tail. And then my two favorite baits for this, of course, live herring and live cigar minnows. But that's the little stinger rig. The single hook, like I said, this goes in one eye and out the other, and then the treble hook just kind of pricked in the very back. Don't go so deep. If you hit the backbone, you're going to kill him. So that treble hook needs to be just above his backbone, just where it'll barely stay in place. That's what keeps away from the short strikes. And you can rig this with or without a small duster on there. Some days I find that a little bit of color really, really helps. And in other days, it's better to have no color. That's just a little bit of an experimentation, and I can't really tell you which one is better. We'll go back a couple. You know, the key to catching a lot of fish here, whether we're doing this king mackerel thing, whether we're going tarpon fishing or bottom fishing, is to catch bait. And a lot of people miss opportunities to catch bait every day. We got so hung up on going all the way out here to the pass to catch bait. But a lot of days, the bait could be on the north side of the bridge right there around Crab Island, the channel right there by Destin Marina, right here in front of the Destin Bridge, the finger jetty and this big hole out here, right here off the tip of the jetty. And this past weekend, Friday, bait, for as hard as bait was to catch in the middle of the week last week, Friday and Saturday, it was insanely good. Friday, they were right between the rocks, right in here. Roughest place they could be for all the boat wake, but you could string herring. If you dropped the bait rig in the water Friday, you were gonna have 6 herring. Now, I'm not saying you got them all to the boat, but you go to pick them up out of the water, you had 6. It was as good a herring fishing. Saturday, there was almost none right here, and they were all right out here on this eastern lip right here. But as you're going out in the morning, you have to go past all these places to get out here. Just because you see all the boats out here, don't forget to stop in here and check these places. Because just because there's a bunch of boats out there doesn't mean that's where the bait is. Because when I got out there Saturday morning, there's a huge cluster of boats right over here. Well, half them boats were actually not bait fishing, they're waiting on the bait boat. But the others are all sitting here fishing. Well, I just kind of came over here and started driving around watching my bottom machine. It's like, oh wait, I found more bait over here, and then shortly later, we're sitting over there and there's nobody, and all of a sudden I look up and we're surrounded by boats. But don't just think just because they're all over there, that's where you got to go. That's not the case. I did talk about trolling or planers. Trolling leads are another good option. Trolling leads are easier than planers, but they don't get as deep. A trolling lead, unless you go to something super, super heavy, when I say super heavy, 16 to 48 ounces, now that's going to get you super deep, but it's just not really effective. We troll so slow for kings that's too much lead. somewhere between a 2 and a 6 ounce trolling lead is where you need to be. And I'm missing a slide here, but speed. You know, when we're trolling a dead cigar minnow, we need to impart life to it. So we're trolling a dead cigar minnow or a hard lure that we're going to talk about in a minute. Those need to be a little faster. Those are probably more in that, somewhere in that 4 to 6 mile an hour range. If we're flatline fishing, well, we're basically either using Helmmaster or a trolling motor or something to hold the bait in place on the wreck, and we're just throwing live baits out behind the boat. Now we can live bait troll with the same flatline rig. That is, we troll around the schools of bait, but instead of going lure speed at that 4 to 6 knots, it's as slow as you can go with a live bait. That when we're trolling along, that this live bait, he can't swim over here and tangle this one. And when you're going down current, that's probably in gear, out of gear. In gear, out of gear. When you're going into the current, you're probably just in gear. Sometimes in gear or in and out of gear is still too fast. If you're going too fast, you'll drown those live baits. You can take a 5-gallon bucket with a rope handle, tie it off to a cleat and throw it over. That will slow you down. Some people's boats will idle at 3 or 4 miles an hour. But a 5-gallon bucket will definitely slow you down. We'll come back and talk about, well, we can do downriggers. You know, downrigger fishing, while it works for kings, I think planers and trolling leads and lipped baits are much less cumbersome than a downrigger. But if you're out there fishing some deeper water structure, let's say maybe we were out there trolling on the southwest edge and we really needed to get down there 50, 75, or even 100 feet deep, well, you're not going to do that with a trolling lead or with a planer. A downrigger will allow me to fish as deep as I want to fish. I can fish super light line, 20-pound test, and still fish 200 feet deep if I need to with a downrigger, because the downrigger takes all the pressure. And you can troll multiple lines off a downrigger, but on this clip here, we're showing, you know, trolling lead is, you know, these are approximates, but a trolling lead about 10 feet is max depth. With a planer, we can get 20 feet, and with lip baits, some of them we can get down 30. But with a planer or downrigger, I can fish as deep or shallow as I want. There's no limit to how deep we can troll with the downrigger. Of all the clips to hold your line behind the downrigger, the Canon Unitrol clip is by far the best. It just has 2 little pinchers, and in the back it has a little set of ratchets. So the deeper you go or the bigger your bait is, the tighter you need to put that. But a king mackerel's mouth is fairly soft, so you want it to be, when he grabs it, that he can just snap it out real easy. But this is the most popular clip. My favorite method is the rubber band method. When you're using a clip, every time you get a bite, I guess you could buy a whole bunch of clips, but they're fairly expensive. But you need to reel the ball up every time to re-rig and let it back down. Well, I use a double barrel swivel like this, and I use a number 32 rubber band. So I never reel the downrigger ball up. At the end of the day, I might have 20 of these double clips down there. But one clip just clips around the downrigger line, and the other clip, we take a number 32 rubber band, wrap it around the main line of the fishing rod and into the other side of the double snap. That number 32 rubber band, when a king mackerel grabs it and goes to pull, it has the perfect amount of tension to set the hook when it breaks, but not too much. If you were fishing a really small light line rod and maybe some really small baits, you could drop down to a number 16 rubber band. And then when we're like offshore fishing at the fads, maybe we're fishing for tunas and wahoos, we're trolling maybe a big mullet or a big Spanish mackerel, then I would probably go to a number 64 rubber band. But for king mackerels, a number 32 rubber band is perfect. Questions before we go to lures?
You ever use the bridle on the planer? Familiar with that bridle? It's just a quick release for the planer when the planer comes in. I've seen it on videos. I haven't never fished with it, but
Yeah. So the question was, do we ever use a bridle? That's really more for bigger game fishing. It's not necessary for like king mackerel fishing. That's more where we're running like a number 4 to number 6 planer. I think it's cumbersome. I don't particularly like it. It takes too long to get it on and off. I very rarely, I know how to do it, but I very rarely ever do use it. If you had a really good crew where you had an angler, a deckhand, a captain, and everybody knows what they're doing, I think it's an okay concept for some bigger fish, but for king mackerel, it's more work than it's not necessary. Yes, sir.
How do you rig those trolling leads?
So, a trolling lead would be just like this planer rig, but the trolling lead would be, I would have a snap swivel on my line, then that snap swivel is attached to the trolling lead, and then the trolling lead has a snap on the other end. I would have about 10 feet of heavy mono, like 100-pound mono, to a snap swivel, and then my leader for my lure would be attached to that. But I would rig it just like a planer rig. More questions? We're good? Lures. Most of our charter boats all fish lure fish anymore. Back when I was charter fishing and we were trolling dead sick arm minnows, we really didn't have a good supply of lures back then. I mean, a big mirror lure was about it. We had a few Rapalas and things, but we didn't really have larger stick bait lures. Not anything near to the quality that we have today as far as durability and being lifelike like they are. But just for the ease of fishing, most of our charter fleet is fishing this way. Now, we do have some specialty boats. There's some guys that go out there that do a lot of live bait trolling. And when you're live bait trolling or drift fishing or fly lining, that's how we're going to catch a much better grade of fish, our bigger fish. So if I was trying to go out and fish the Destin Fishing Rodeo, yes, I would be live bait fishing, because that's how you're going to produce the bigger quality fish. We got a couple guys in the 25 and under charter division. They specialize in this. There's a little boat called the Silver King, and then there's another one called the Dawn Patrol. Well, the two of them go win that division most of the time, but they're really good at the live bait fishing thing, and they put a lot of time into where they need to fish, making sure they're catching the right baits, how to rig the baits. This is simple, easy, stupid. Anybody can do this and go out there and produce fish. The Yozuri Crystal Minnows, this is probably our most popular one. I actually like the lighter colors for this. Two of my favorites are what are called clown. There's a white clown and a chartreuse head clown. These, they're just super, super easy. They kind of catch everything. Same with the Rapalas. Now the Rapalas are nice because the Yozuri does come with a very small, shallow lip. This one will only run 3 or 4 feet deep. And then they have a larger lip. Y'all can come up here afterwards and see the different sizes on these lips. This bigger lip one, it'll run 12, 15 feet deep. Same thing with the Rapalas. They have a small bill and a large bill. So the Rapalas are super good. Two of the newest baits that have been very, very popular this year, actually there's 3. AFCO this is technically it's a jerk bait. but this AFCO jerkbait, it trolls very, very well. This has been real popular lately. And then there is the, this is a Yozuri long cast, very much similar to this one. There's a jerkbait goes, really designed for the pier, but this is one of my favorites. And then, of course, the Shimano Current Sniper. These two Yozuris, I talked about lighter colors in the smaller Yozuris. Most all of these lures, underneath the paint, whatever finish is on there, these lures are just plain matte white, basically the same color as your chairs. And we were after Yozuri for years to make these lures. And in the past, we've been taking, what we found is when our blue or silver or red and white or whatever color it was, as the paint would start to get all eaten off, the lure became more productive. And it got to the point where we were actually taking the lure, buying a brand new lure, taking it home and sanding all the color off of it just to get to the pure bone white. Well, now Yozuri actually makes a white and a bone. So these come out of the package ready to fish. So these are two excellent, excellent choices. But those are, and like I say, the hard bait thing, that's just super, super easy. You can put 2 shallow lips out and then put them a good ways behind the boat, say 100 to 150 feet behind the boat, and then put a couple deep divers closer to the boat that are down deep. And that's just an easy, easy way to be able to, and what I really like this for is I can cover a lot more ground. I can troll in that 4 to 6 mile an hour. So let's say I'm out there in the 18s. People are going to say, well, what are the 18s? It's an area of bottom about 15 or so miles southwest of the pass, and it covers about a 3 square mile area, but it's a whole area of natural bottom, and it's 18 fathoms deep. And that's where it got its name, the 18s. Well, the 18s, the Nicky Grounds covers about 3 or 4 square miles. The Timber Holes probably covers 10 square miles. Well, if I'm in the Timber Holes, there's literally hundreds of rocks there. Well, I need to go bouncing from one rock to the next rock to the next rock till I find the schools, the cigar minnows, and herring. Well, trolling lures allows me to cover more ground in a faster time. Once I find those concentrations of bait, I want to get my spinning rod out and start either slow trolling with live cigar minnows or flatline fishing. When we're slow trolling a live cigar minnow or a live herring across the top, you're just kind of bump along. Well, that's when, if you remember all the way back in the beginning, that king mackerel is just skying out of the water. That's exactly what's going to happen. You're just bumping along, and all of a sudden go boom. That's the coolest thing, to look behind the boat and see that happen. So I would actually rather fish this way. But you're going so slow, you can't really cover a lot of ground. So you're less likely to find a lot of fish. So the lure fishing or the dead bait fishing finds more fish. And then once I get in the right area, then I kind of switch my tactic a little bit. Questions about that?
What about single strand versus multi-strand?
So the question is single strand versus multi-strand wire. For me, when I'm trolling, I like single strand better because it has some stiffness to it, which will help my baits troll better. But when I'm making my live bait rigs, they should be made out of stranded wire because they allow the fish to swim and look much more natural. So trolling, straight wire; live baiting or flatline fishing, stranded wire. And on our website, we have a little thing, it's called the 30-second king mackerel rig. You can make this rig. This is really a rig that you can make in 30 seconds. There's nothing to make in one. We sell them pre-made, but the little pre-made ones, they're I don't know, $3.99. You can make one for $1, $1.25. I sit at home and I'll make, you know, watching TV at night, I'll just sit there and make 20, 30 of them. I put them in little individual bags and then put those inside of a Ziploc and throw that in my tackle bag. But super easy to make. So, kind of gives us a lot of the coverage on king mackerel. Well, in all these same areas that we're doing this king mackerel fishing, the same areas that we're going to find our inshore mahi, you know. And my buddy Mark here, this is one that he trolls with all the time, a bird and a duster. I mean, this is a great way to locate mahis in those same areas. You know, you want to throw you out a couple hard baits, put you one of these on, put it way behind the boat, put it right down the center, stick that sucker back there, 150, 200 yards behind the boat. That is a mahi locating device. It's this little rig. You can rig these yourself, or you can buy them pre-rigged or rig it yourself. But these little bird rigs, this is the way to locate mahi. And if you get out there and you find a grass line, we had a lot early this year, April, May. The sargasso weed, seemed like there was just line after line after line. No matter how far you ran offshore, you'd run through 2 or 3 lines. And the mahi fishing was really, really good. And then here all of a sudden, we got here to June, and the grass has almost been non-existent for a month. Hopefully, we're getting a lot of this southwesterly wind this week. Hurricane Beryl, you know, made landfall in Texas. Thankfully, it wasn't a big hurricane. They're going to, of course, have some damage over there, but it's not going to be anything catastrophic. But we're really, really hoping that the path that this came across the southern Gulf and where it went, the direction of the winds, they're just going to change a lot of our water conditions and hopefully blow us in some weeds, so we will have better mahi fishing. But the mahis are going to be located in the same areas that the kings are, and they're going there to feed on the live baits. But the bird rigs are a great way to find them. And then there's what's called a gotcha troll, which is this little guy here. Now, we have regular gotchas at the store and we have gotcha trolls. There is a big difference in the two. The gotcha plug has got 2 treble hooks on it, and it's got a little slant nose on it. And it's more for the pier, pier, jetties, and surf. You're going to throw it out there and reel and jig, it's a jerk bait. But if you put that on your rod and try to troll it, it's just going to sit there and, I don't care, you can put 10 ball bearing swivels on it. It's going to spin, and it's going to spin up your line. But this particular one, the gotcha troll, it has a center hole and a single hook. Everything that I troll or throw for mahi has a single hook. I don't know how many, surely everybody's caught a mahi before, but when you go, I don't care how big he is, he can be this big or this big, but you put one in the boat and they just go bananas. If it has a treble hook on it, somebody's going to be wearing a treble hook before the day's over. Use things with single hooks. The little gotcha trolls for trolling, and then for casting. I don't actually have a big picture of this one, but the GI jigs that we talk about all the time, just a regular little bucktail jig, and I really like this. Just some days just a super plain single hook diamond jig. They make this in a treble hook version also. Don't get the treble hook version. Get the single hook version, because somebody's going to be wearing that treble hook before the day's over with. It's just too dangerous. But, you know, all of these little lures, the gotcha troll, it's truly a trolling lure. The rest of these can all be casted and or trolled. If we find the weed line, or we're out there and you're sitting there doing the live bait thing for kings, a lot of times the mahis will come right up to you. I really like to be able to use a much smaller rod. This is one of the little Star Segis rods with a Stratic 4000 reel and 20-pound test. And this is something that we are throwing at the mahis all the time. I can't tell you how many days I've made the day's trip fishing with this. And then there is an easy way to, if you dead set that we want to go out and catch some mahi today. I don't want to say this will work every single time, but almost without fail, I can go out there and attract mahis. Now, I'm going to lure every once in a while. I'm going to go back to this little rig I'm going to show you here. And when I go back to it, it's going to be gone because the sharks have eaten it. You're not supposed to swallow in that pipe. But this is just a regular fish basket from the store. We put take a pool noodle, split it, put it around it, zip tie it to it. Make a chum basket, get some rope and a weight, and we're going to go out there and maybe we're going to go off bottom fishing for an hour or two, and then we want to come back and catch some mahis. Well, take this basket, put you a 5-pound block of chum in there, put a few live cigar minnows in there. You know, if you're in 100 feet of water, you probably need 125 feet of rope. Put the lead over, let it go all the way to the bottom. Get the lead down there and just throw the whole rig overboard and drive off and do what you're going to do. Come back in a couple hours. Most of the time, there's going to be mahi there. Not every time, but most of the time. And then occasionally, because that thing's full of chum and live cigar minnows, you're going to come back and you're going to find a couple pieces of it, and the sharks are going to have destroyed it. Just part of it. But just a regular 5-pound block of chum, and then you're gonna get there, and most days that you go and do this method, you're gonna be able to pull up there in any of the little jigs that we've talked about. You'll be able to flip that out there, jig it. Always try the jig first. Jig's always your first option. You're gonna catch the mahis, you're gonna catch 5, 6, 8, maybe 10, and then they're gonna get wise to this, and it's like, they'll follow it to the boat, but they won't eat it. You've caught 6 or 8 or 10, and man, they'll just follow it. You get all the way to the boat, you pitch it out there again, same thing. Well, after they've started doing that, this is when we need to go to some cut bait. Cut herring, cut cigar minnows, cut them up in little pieces, throw a handful over, hide your hook in a piece, and then, just like if we were going to go black snapper fishing, we're going to throw that handful of chum, and the little mahis are going to run up there. You want to throw your bait with the other pieces, and then just slowly do this number. You want your piece of chum or your piece of cut bait with the hook to fall at the same rate that the other pieces are. Because of the hook, sometimes it's going to want to fall faster, so you kind of have to slow down a little bit. And then sometimes, because of the current, it may not want to sink fast enough because it wants to hold your line up. Now we have to feed the line faster. But you want that little piece of chum falling at the same rate as this handful that you just thrown out. Well, now we're going to catch another 6 or 8 or 10 mahis, and they're going to quit that. They're going to like, Fred and Lisa and everybody else is gone. We're going to quit eating this stuff. That's when we can go to live herring or live cigar minnows, and that will allow you to catch some more. If you go straight to live bait when you first get there, well, when they get wise to the live bait, you can't go, it's hard to go backwards. So jigs, cut bait, live bait. That's how you get a lot of mahis. We control the bird with the little duster and the little gotcha lures to locate them. Once we locate them, we start this method. And if you want, there's nothing that says you have to stop and do this. You can put this whole little chum rig out there, get there and just troll and just make circles around it. One thing I did forget to mention earlier about when you find schools of live bait out there over this natural bottom or ships, don't troll through the middle of the live bait. Troll around the schools of bait. You know, because when you're trolling around the schools of bait, if you go right through the middle, you're going to drive them all to the bottom, and then the fish that are there are going to run away. But if you troll around the outside, as you're trolling your line and making a circle around a school of bait, your line's really not behind the boat this way. Your line's over here. So if you got the school of bait here and you're making a circle, your bait is going to stay right there with the other baits. So don't troll through the middle of them. Troll around them. And because the fish are not in the bait schools, the fish are coming from outside to where the schools of bait are. So you want to be that way when you're trolling, the fish have to come past your bait to get to the school of either live cigar minnows or herring. So that's going to give you the best opportunity to get bites. You know, one that I did forget to mention is a little white jig. This is a well, we had the other little jigs down there. This is a really good option for mahis. I really like the little Shimano Colt Sniper jigs. These do come with treble hooks. I encourage you to take the treble hook off and put it. The lure works so good, it's worth fishing with. Just take the treble hook off and put a single hook on them. I mean, every year I have to dig a hook out of my hand. So you don't want to do that. Questions about that? Yes?
Have you ever contacted the manufacturer of those and asked them to produce some with just a single hook on it?
I actually have. I see them at a trade show 3 times a year every year, and I haven't got them to make those with a single hook yet. Yes? Question was, what kind of leader for mahis? Generally, I like about a 60-pound test monofilament leader. You don't really need wire for them, and I think you just get a few more bites with mono leader. I have had to go all the way down to 40-pound mono to get bites, though. I've had to go to 40 and 30-pound mono to get bites on snappers lately, too, so, because they've been super, super tough. Mary, you want to get our basket up there while you? So, kind of off subject here. I want to tell everybody a story from Friday. This is a FYI story. I was fishing with some clients of mine, and I really thought we were going to lose an angler Friday. It was a very scary situation. With the heat and the humidity the way it is extremely hot this year. Well, we had an angler get seasick. Well, that's not normally so bad. People get seasick, it happens all the time. But, you know,
As long as it's not happening to you.
right. But, you know, when I'm fishing, you know, as we're going to new spots, one of my things is try to, you know, if we're fishing at one spot, before we go to the next spot, everybody needs to get a couple bottles of water. We're going to drink one of the bottles of water. We're going to have a snack. You're going to take the second bottle of water. You're going to pour it over the back of your head and the back of your neck. Do about half a bottle that way, and then the other half a bottle over your feet. Pouring that cold water over your head and your feet is one of the quickest ways to cool you down. Well, we had been doing this with this one angler. Well, he still got very, very, very seasick. I'm sad to see anyone that sick. And it's something that you don't see people get that violently ill that often, but he was bad. Well, he's trying to be strong for his buddies and strong for his daughter was on board with us that day. She was about 8 or 9, and he's trying to be tough dad, and he's going to stick it out. Well, he'd gotten sick 2 or 3 times. Well, finally, he got to the point where he was deathly ill, and he was overheated. Well, in the middle of throwing up, he quasi blacks out, passes out. And immediately I was like, all right, reel him up, stow this stuff, we're going home. We're 40 miles from home. Thankfully, it was calm. We could run 50 miles an hour. I seriously considered calling the Coast Guard to get a life flight helicopter out there with us. But at the rate we could run, by the time I figured they could get a helicopter from Pensacola, get it to where we were, because we were southeast, they're going to have to fly past Destin, then have to have time to try to airlift him off the boat. We're going to get, I think, you know, we're 40 miles, but I can run 52 miles an hour. I mean, I can be back at the pass in about 44 minutes. So we're just killing dinosaurs. I'm wide open running home. We get home, you know, then of course there's about another 15-minute gap to get him to the dock. Well, we ice him down, you know, we get him in towels and get ice on him, trying to get him as cool as we can get, but he's still getting seasick even more. We can't get fluids in him. And it was a scary situation, but by the time we got into the harbor, the very last time he got sick, it was to the point where it wasn't dry heaves anymore. He was throwing up green bile. It was serious. Luckily, we get him to the dock. The story turns out great. He's fine. Everything is good. But we get to the dock, get him in the car, get to the ER, spent about 4 or 5 hours in the ER, got 3 bags of saline that night to get him rehydrated. But the worst thing that happened to him wasn't the seasickness, it was heat stroke. And heat stroke is a very, very serious thing. So what I'm trying to impress on you here is I see people all the time get to the boat in the morning and they got 3 bottles of water for each person. That's not going to get it. Mary packs my cooler in the morning. There's 6 or 8 bottles of Gatorade plus a case of water. You have to have enough to stay hydrated in this weather, or you're going to have one of them scary incidents like that. And it's not fun to see one of your friends that you're worried to the point, okay, are they going to make it or not? Yep. And another thing, wear light color clothing. I mean, he had on a black pair of shorts and a long sleeve navy shirt. That doesn't help either. You know, wear something light, something that's cool. A lot of these technical shirts that have a lot of sunscreen protection in them, be careful with some of those. Some of those are hotter than wearing cotton. They have great sun protection, but they're not super cool. Make sure you get one that has a cooling factor to it. It's very important. That's more of a FYI story. We want to keep y'all safe because we want y'all coming back here, coming to our seminars and stuff. And that's what we're trying to do there. Yep. Yes, sir.
We had a similar thing happen in the distant past, about 3 or 4 weeks ago when we dry. We had a person go down. Same thing. Had that.
Yep.
Luckily, we had 2 nurses on board, so we jumped in there. And when we got back, the nurses said, "Why don't y'all put a quart bottle of that baby water, Pedialyte?"
Yep. Pedialyte, Gatorade, biofuel. They make another product called Instant IV that you mix in with your water. Any of those things that will get your electrolytes up faster, because when you get dehydrated, you lose electrolytes, and that's one of the things that makes you even sicker. But keep enough, you know, water's cheap, Gatorade's cheap. Take plenty of that. I'm telling you, if I could have put the guy in if our fish box would have been big enough, I'd have just stuck him in the fish box to cool him off. But the fish box wasn't that big.
Do you know, is there an option with the Coast Guard if you pull straight into the Coast Guard station? Are they prepared to deal with something like that?
They can deal with a lot there. But I thought it was going to take me just about as long to get there as it was. We needed to get him to the ER as quick as we could. That is an option though. The Coast Guard can do some of that, but with Crab Island and everything, that was going to take me another bit of time. But still a great option. Absolutely. And the Coast Guard is very good. I mean, I'm proud of our guys. They do a good job around here. Questions? Really? Everybody's already smart. Can do all this? That was easy. So, afterwards, if you want to come up here, I have one more tip, but I don't want to do it online. But, so Mary's going to draw out some names. We're going to give away some free goodies. You want some free stuff? So how about a shirt, key thingy. I think y'all have heard me say this before, these little huggy things. This is the best leader dispenser on the market. Get a 1/4 ounce spool of line, put it in here. Same price as a 50-yard leader's coil, but it's way cheaper. Can you read it?
Oh, now you got the microphone.
Yeah, but I can't read it. So Parker Rowan? I butchered that pretty bad, didn't I? What is it?
Rothman.
Rothman. All right, Parker.
I'll try to read one.
Right here, all right.
That's what's pretty easy.
John Barber. Here we go.
Thank you.
Bentley Wise.
There you go, Bentley. Appreciate y'all coming out tonight. Got two more.
Okay. Bob Polotki.
Bob,
Bob. Oh, he got it.
Polly.
He recognized my.
Yeah.
He got it.
Come on, it's easy.
Here we go.
All right, thank you.
We got one more.
Aaron Hendricks.
Oh, you know what we forgot? You need to go. Mary's going to come around real quick and give everybody a little discount card.
Is it two Aaron Hendrickson? Wait, what?
Did you get Hendricks?
We got Aaron Hendricks. Both y'all? Well, here you go. Hey, come back here, other Aaron. Luckily, I got something in my bag. There's a fish cleaning pad and a couple things. That's wild. So what Mary's passing out right now, this, for any of y'all who don't know, this is a $20 off a $50 purchase card. You can bring it into the store anytime in the next 30 days, and that's a really good little deal. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Next month, we're going to be, I'm pretty sure next month is amberjack fishing. I think. Pretty sure. But we'd love to see y'all out for that, and we appreciate y'all coming tonight. Like I say, if you have any questions, come on up here after she gets done handing out cards. And I like, in monofilament, I like Andy. And in braid,